Why do you need to oil bearings, Blair?
To get the dirt out.
Why do you need to get the dirt? Well, you don't get the dirt out by oiling them.
Oh,
So what are you doing? Mate, you're picking at that like an old chook out in the chook pen. Any lateral movement in the bearing, it needs to be tossed. Let's get these shocks buttoned up. Oh, they feel so much better. Have my pistons at the bottom of the stroke. I make sure if you guys haven't rebuilt your shocks in a while, you need to get to it because they feel absolutely amazing. All right, the countdown's on. We need to get this Mini back together because it's now less than a day before we're heading to the track. We'll grease these up now. We'll put a little bit of grease in the sockets before that wouldn't have lasted much longer. Hey everyone, it's Mark here, and today we're going to take a look at how I turn this pile of garbage into this race-winning package. Look how clean it is. That's right, the old FG 4-wheel drive 1/5 scale RC car is looking as pretty as a picture. So how did we get there? Well, there's been a couple of videos prior to this one to get us to this point. So the first video looked at dismantling, it looked at cleaning, it looked at inspecting some wear items. We also rebuilt the diffs in that video. The next video looked at a top-end rebuild on the Zenoa G270. They were both fantastic videos, so if you haven't had an opportunity, look those up because they are full of some great advice and some great info. Anyway, what are we working on today? Well, today we're going to take a look at the suspension and cleaning the bearings. Oh, even a special guest appearance in the workshop from none other than number 27, B. Thomasson, the jet pilot himself. He rolls up his sleeves and gets his hands dirty with his old man, so keep an eye out for that one in the video. All right, let's get to it. Thanks for watching, guys, and I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Well, it's like Christmas morning here. Fresh parts are in. Express post, wasn't so express, but anyway, we live in Australia, what do you expect? Let's take a look at what we got. What have I ordered? There's a mountain of stuff there. Anyway, let's have a quick look at what we got. New belt, obviously to replace a broken belt. The belts are different between 510s and 530s. They also do an upgraded belt for the 510. It's a little bit wider, so that's the upgraded belt. Spur gear, supposed to be a carrier as well. Blair's is looking a little bit secondhand, a little bit worn, so it'll let us down in the future. We're better off replacing it now. So, and then we'll replace it and keep the used bit as a trackside spare just in case. Some ball ends. I'll go through that in a minute, but they wear, and these are the ones that have a screw you can adjust the tension on, so whether you've seen those or not, I'll show you those a little bit in the detail. Body pins, you can never have too many body pins. Some square hub drives. Now these wear, I'll show you again, but they wear on the front, so where the brake discs fit to these hubs, they can really wear, and as they wear, as that surface deteriorates and the brake disc starts to hit against that hub every time, I'll show you when we put it back together, then they really deteriorate quickly and they'll become a liability for you. So well worth replacing those. They're like maybe 10 bucks Australian. So some little shock spacers, they're always handy to have, cheap as chips. Volume compensators, again, we went through that last time, just a general maintenance item, so well worth getting a few of those. Got enough there for 2 sets, or did I? Looks like I've not clicked the button enough. Only 3 instead of 4. Some rear arms. We had a bit of trouble with a tyre rubbing on one of our rear arms, and it's rubbed through where the shock mounts, so a couple of those and a one for spare just in case. And the top end rebuild kit. Let's have a look at what comes in the top end rebuild kit. So you can buy the parts individually, but I just chose to buy it all together. I think it might be a little bit cheaper to buy it all together too in a kit. What comes in a kit? Cylinder comes in a kit, new cylinder, new piston, fresh piston. Oh, spark plug, didn't realise that, spark plug. Base gasket comes with that. and ring, piston pin, and the 2 little C-clips for the piston pin. What's needed also that doesn't come with that will be some intake gaskets and exhaust gasket. Pretty sure I've got some of those lying around. I make my own gaskets, so I'll have some of those kicking around. Anyway, let's get to it. Well, I'd never thought I'd see the day. Young 27 B Thomasson in the workshop picking out his own seals to clean some bearings. Well, look at that. Now Blair, can you tell us why you're doing it? Can you tell us why you're doing it, Blair?
to oil them.
Why do you need to oil bearings, Blair?
To get the dirt out.
Why do you need to get the dirt? Well, you don't get the dirt out by oiling them.
No.
So what are you doing?
So it's smoother.
Mate, you're picking at that like an old chook out in the chook pen.
You were like, oh.
Don't wreck that seal.
See, exactly. You are doing it like an old.
You gotta be careful with those seals. What happens if you damage a seal? It just gets full of dirt again and we've just wasted our time. So you've got to be really, really careful and get those seals out without damaging them. The old Mini truly is getting a birthday, isn't it? Bearings, shocks, belts, diffs. So we've got the bearings clean now. Just before oiling and putting the seals back in, it's just a good idea to feel them just to make sure they're nice and free. Any lateral movement in the bearing, it needs to be tossed. They feel good. They're all running very, very nicely. No movement. So we'll pop a seal back in one side. Give them an oil. Work that in. It's a good idea to clean your seals too. The seals can get quite dirty, so give those a quick clean as well. Oh, they feel much better. Let's get these shocks buttoned up. New volume compensators. They just get pressed in first into the shock caps. Make sure they're seated in there nicely. Just going to use some Molykote O-ring lube on these shocks. It'll just help seal those little O-rings. Don't need much. Next one, collar in first. Just make sure it's sitting in there nicely. Shock shaft in. O-ring, little dab of O-ring lube. Spacer. O-ring. Put the last collar in the lid, on the cap. We'll tension that up later. These just get done up just till they're nipped up. Oh, they feel so much better. Alright, I should show you guys just how I'm bleeding these shocks. So the first thing I look for when I'm doing my shocks is to make sure there's no air in that silicone fluid, obviously. So just work the piston up through its stroke. Be careful not to come out of the top of the fluid there, and just make sure that there's no air in there. I have my pistons at the bottom of the stroke. I make sure the fluid is past that line, and then I screw the cap on. Any excess fluid will be expelled out of this hole as we screw that down. There it is there. If you have too much fluid in there and you do that cap up, you won't be able to fully compress the shock. So an example, so as we go in, we should be able to have the same amount of resistance all the way in. If there was too much fluid in there, I'd only be able to get to perhaps here. So if I did that, I'd just have to back the lid off and let a little bit of that fluid out. So a good way to test the amount of fluid in your shock and the amount of pack or rebound you've got is like this. So you have the two shocks facing together. We push in and they should arrive at the end of the stroke at the same time. Whoop. There you go. And they should rebound the same amount if we've got the same amount of pack as well. It's why pack, or the amount of air that's trapped in there and fluids, pretty tricky. But you can see there, they're pretty close. So there's too much fluid in this one, so I'll show you what would happen if I just did that up. Let's do it up real quick. Right, so let's try and compress it. It's getting pretty hard. That's it there, I can't compress any further. So there's too much fluid in that one. So if I was to try and compare it to the other side, see the difference? Too much fluid. So we can just compress. We'll make sure that cap's up enough so to let the fluid out, and we'll just compress that shock a little bit, and just some of that fluid's going to come out. What you don't want to happen is let the shock go without that cap being screwed down now. If you do that, air will be sucked in and you'll have air in your shock, so not so good. That's about it there. Maybe a tiny bit more. We'll try that. Feels better. Let's have a look. You can see that side was just a tiny little bit softer, but nothing to worry about. And the rebound is about the same, so good job, they're done. If you guys haven't rebuilt your shocks in a while, you need to get to it, because they feel absolutely amazing. We needed to have done that a long time ago. So if you haven't done your shocks in a while, get to it, because they feel amazing. All right, the countdown's on. We need to get this Mini back together because it's now less than a day before we're heading to the track. So let's get this thing back together. Fresh parts. Gotta love the fresh parts. So just quickly, if you're struggling with your boots, just get with your drive shaft boots, just get a little bit of dishwashing liquid and just put that on your drive shaft and a little bit on the boot, and it should go on there much easier. It really does make a big difference. And once the boot's on, we'll just give that a wipe off if the Mini will stop moving. Just give that a quick wipe off. We'll grease these up now. We'll put a little bit of grease in the sockets before the balls go in. It'll help hold the drive shaft balls. A bit more grease around those now. Drive shafts next. We'll put a bit of grease in the socket, not too much, and we'll put a bit of grease on the outside too where it goes into the diff housing, not too much. Bit of grease in the socket. Bit of grease in the drive shafts. Alright, I was just about to put the low shaft on, and I just want to show you guys the wear on these gears. So you can just see here how much they're worn. That teeth, there's not much left on that teeth. That wouldn't have lasted much longer. And the more it wears, the quicker it deteriorates, because the more it slaps against the gear. So you can see here, I'll try and show you what happens. See how the mesh isn't fantastic? As that backlash gets bigger, the tooth just gets hammered and smashed to pieces, so make sure you keep an eye on those. Just another thing to note, when you've got these double locking gears, always, well, I always use Loctite, but always do one side up first. So do one side up and then pinch the other side. Don't try and do half of one and then half of the other. So all on one side, nice and tight, and then the second side. Run number one of the spotlessly clean Mini. Blair, the only instruction, don't get it dirty, because I haven't finished the video yet, so keep it clean.